Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video. And with this one, I will be doing a Dragonflight overview of the Enhancement Shaman. What types of spells and abilities are you going to be looking forward to, and what possible customizations and builds will this specialization bring to you to get the juices flowing and get your creativity going. So with the Enhancement Shaman, there's a lot going on when we look at the class and the specialization. As you move into Dragonflight, you will immediately notice that you've got two talent trees, one focused on your class being Shaman, and then one focused specifically on your specialization. On the Shaman side of it, it does focus a lot more on utility. On the Enhancement Shaman profile, it's much more about how you want to build your damage, what spells do you want to amplify, what type of cooldowns do you want to be playing with, and I've noticed this trend throughout a lot of classes. When we look at the baseline talents, on the first row, Chain Heal is probably a talent that you are going to ignore. Lava Burst is a talent that you will likely have to pick up, although I've found it pretty odd as to how to fit it into your rotation. It's just an ability that doesn't really synergize very well with any of the other spells in the kit, but you'll have to get it to get down to Earth Elemental or Earth Shield if you want this powerful kind of raid cooldown, as well as in PvP for the bonus HP, which is now baked baseline into the Earth Ellie. Astral Shift, which you're likely going to have to talent for. Chain Lightning, which is kind of weird because it's talented over. Oh, so it's a rank 2, sorry. So Chain Lightning, which you get baseline, you get Maelstrom Weapon baseline, and you get Flurry baseline on these talents as Enhancement Shaman, so you can spend your points elsewhere. As we move down to the second row, we have, of course, Wind Shear. We have things like making our Astral Shift a more powerful cooldown by adding an additional 20% damage reduction to it, which can be really important against classes in PvP that you know have 2-minute cooldowns like Death Knights of the Abomination's Limb, or in PvE when there's a really big raid encounter that the original damage reduction is just not enough. Or of course, you can get a longer duration and a reduced cooldown, so customizing your defense. Thunderous Pause, Ghost Wolf removing snares and providing you additional movement speed. So of course, Enhancement Shaman with limited mobility, this is something that's always going to be potent for you. Frost Shock, of course, still being the ranged snare, having some synergies with your DPS talents as well. And then moving on to the third row, Earth Shield, really good, powerful heal, has been consistently great in PvP. Fire and Ice, which is just extra 3% damage filler talent. Capacitator Totem, which can be powerful, but more often than not, I think maybe Capacitator Totem is going to be moving on and retired with how many other powerful talents there are. You'll have to talent for the ability to decurse, so it's my expectation that you're going to have a lot of loadouts, ones where you know you don't need a decurse, you can drop the Cleanse Spirit and pick something else up. And then Focused Insight, which is casting Flame Shock, is going to reduce the mana cost of your next heal and increase its effectiveness by 15%, and you can talent this twice for 30%. And there are a lot of talents focused on increasing the healing of Healing Surge. You are very powerful in terms of this type of defense. It's likely going to result in being very powerful in PvP. Elemental Orbit, increase the number of elemental shields you can have active on yourself, which means you can have Earth Shield and Lightning Shield, which means you can get the defensive Earth Shield as well as the Maelstrom generation, getting you to more Maelstrom weapons, which is going to be really powerful for enhancement. Spirit Walker's Grace, not exactly the most powerful for enhancement, as you're not kind of actively casting spells, but as we move down the tree, possibly there's going to have some use for it. Tremor Totem, and of course, and not in all situations are you going to need Tremor Totem, so being able to choose to drop this talent on a loadout to pick up something else is definitely something to consider. You're going to have like a decurse build, a tremor build. You're going to need like maybe 6 or 7 different loadouts with how many talents you have. You can empower your Cap Totem to try and make it a little bit more desirable, but I still think even with the empowered talent, that Cap Totem is probably moving on. It's still a great AoE stun in a PvE environment, but in PvP I think there's better stuns that can replace it, and there's more value from other talents. But Guardian's Cudgel, when Capacitator Totem fades or is destroyed, you'll get another Cap Totem, or you can get the previous existing talent, which is just reduce the cooldown of Cap Totem by 5 seconds up to 20 based on how many targets you hit. You are going to be able to have the talent into Hex. You can then empower this Hex to either snare the target, I think Enfeeblement is likely just never going to be selected, or to reduce the cooldown and kind of be spam hexing as enhancement and focusing more on crowd control, which you didn't have access to previously. So Enhancement Shaman sitting there spamming Hex could be really deadly in PvP. Then we can empower Spirit Walker's Grace to either provide us immunities to interrupt and silence, so we could use this to try and get hexes in PvP, or we can reduce the cooldown by 60 seconds, increase our movement speed while it's active. Again, Spirit Walker's Grace not super powerful. I think getting the double shields may be a better option for you. We've got Ancestral Defense, which is just 3% leech, 3% avoidance. It seems really minor, this talent. It's just there for filler. I think I might have already covered that. Then we can get into Earth Grab Totem. And for Enhancement Shaman, I don't know how important this is going to be necessarily for you. I think going down the Hex and the Purge tree option on the right will probably be better. But in raid boss mechanics where there's a root, there's oftentimes bosses where mobs move in from the side and you need to root them. You're now going to be able to fill that niche that previously I think it was Druids with Mass Entanglement. You'll be able to actually fill that niche if you want to in a PvE environment. You're going to have to talent for Purge, but you have the option to empower it to Greater Purge, which makes it a 15-second cooldown, but remove 2 buffs. Greater Purge is going to be great for Enhance so that you can use your mana on healing and then just use this every 15 seconds when there's an important buff that you want to strip from the target. We talked about improving our Hex. Nature's Fury, which is going to increase the critical strike chance of all of our nature spells by 2%. So just giving us some extra damage, especially if you're going for kind of a storm strike build, which we'll get into with the Enhancement Shaman specific talents. We have Totemic Surge, which is going to reduce the cooldown of all of our totems by 2 seconds up to 4. This can be very powerful with Healing Stream Totem, as this totem is going to be a lot of effective healing moving forward. And then we can go into Elemental Warding, which reduces all damage taken by 3% or up to 6%, which honestly is a really important talent to go after, which is only connected through kind of 3 options that you don't really want, at least when it comes in PvP. But this may not be something that you even need in PvE, but in PvP, I would probably err on the side maybe of Cap Totem into Earth Grab Totem, so you can get those root combos if you really wanted a damage reduction oriented build. Nature's Guardian, of course, will then be interconnected into this, which is a really powerful self-heal, but remember with mind games, really dangerous to take in PvP. Then we've got Winds of Alakir, which is going to increase the movement speed of our Ghost Wolf. We can talent it twice for 10%. If we have 3 totems, we're just going to be moving 15% faster. Again, more mobility for enhancement is never going to be a bad thing. Improved damage for Lightning Bolt, so if we're spending our Maelstrom on Lightning Bolt, we can get a bunch of damage into that spell. Totemic Projection, which will allow us to hide our important totems if we want to. I'm not sure how valuable this will be specifically for Enhancement Shaman, as most of your totems generally go ignored in PvP, and then in PvE you can place your cap totem where you want unless they've removed that ability to control. It says 40-yard range, so you'll still be able to move them without that. Then we get into Gust of Wind as an option for enhancement, or Spirit Walk. Spirit Walk I think is generally going to be what you want to go for because you just don't have any other ways to break out of roots, at least when it comes to PvP. But in PvE, Gust of Wind to get out of a raid mechanic on the ground could be useful. Then we've got Swirling Currents, which is Healing Stream is going to buff our next healing surges. So if you really want to go hammer in on this kind of like off healing Enhancement Shaman build and just never die Enhancement Shaman, you're going to have that as an option. Then we get Nature's Swiftness, which is a 1-minute cooldown, makes our next nature spell instant cast. I'm curious if this will work with Hex. Generally, Nature's Swiftness doesn't work with things like Cyclone, so I would imagine it doesn't work with Hex. And if it doesn't work with Hex, then you already have so many instant heals that it's probably unnecessary to go after Nature's Swiftness. You're going to be able to get access to Thunderstorm, which was a knockback that you had previously not been able to get. This could be useful as another interrupt and stop to be more of an annoyance against casters. Knockbacks in PvE to kind of just displace mobs when they need to be can be useful for utility when it is necessary. This is just, again, something Enhance has never had. Totemic Focus increases the radius of your totems, increases the duration of your Earth Grab and your Earth Bind, and increases the duration of your Healing Stream, Mana Spring, Tremor, Poison Cleansing, and Wind Rush totems. Probably maybe into some dot stuff in PvP, getting the extra Healing Stream totem, or if you're trying to focus on being utility with Mana Spring totem for your healers, this could be useful. Surging Shields increase the damage by your lightning shield by 50% and has an additional 25% chance to trigger Maelstrom weapon. This is really powerful. Surging Shields plus the elemental orbit, getting a double shield with insane value. Like, you are going to be a beast when it comes to utility and healing on enhancement. Go with the flow, reducing the cooldown of your Spirit Walk. So if you wanted to get out of roots more frequently, this could be an option, but it is 2 talent points for only 15 seconds. And then Mana Spring Totem, 45-second cooldown. This is going to put a totem on the ground that for every time you cast Lava Burst or Storm Strike, you're going to give 50 mana to your party members. So with a Storm Strike build, you're resetting your Storm Strike a lot. This is going to be a lot of mana for your group. And so this might be useful in PvP when you know it's a mana game and you need to keep your healer at high mana. So you're going to have to think about switching a loadout for some sort of utility, healing, and mana regeneration. You're going to be getting Lightning Lasso, which you had previously not been able to get access to. So being able to have a stun alongside your warrior partner in PvP, for example. Stormbolt Lasso is a deadly combo with Ellie, and now Enhancement getting it is really nasty. Or you can go into Thundershock, which is going to make Thunderstorm knock enemies up in the air, again using it as kind of another pseudo interrupt on top of things like Sunder. Means that casters are going to hate you. Poison Cleansing Totem, probably only going to be taking this in environments like in PvE environments where there's like a specific poison mechanic that needs mass removal. Other than that, in PvP it's like Assassination Rogue, and even then I don't think you'll want to take this, being a 45-second cooldown. Then we've got Call of the Elements, 3-minute cooldown, resets the cooldown of most of your most recently used totem. So you could reset a double tremor totem, you could reset a healing stream totem to try and get some extra healing for your team. You could reset an earth grab to try and get an extra root at the last second. Maybe somebody's about to get away. So a lot of interesting ways to try and outplay your opponents with this. Then we have Ancestral Guidance, which was a powerful healing cooldown for Enhancement Shaman and Warlords of Draenor, which is a 2-minute cooldown. Next 10 seconds, 25% of your damage and healing is converted into healing on 3 nearby injured party or raid members. Now, the limited number of parties probably makes it not too great in raids, but in PvP, this was almost as like a second shield wall to be able to survive goes in PvP. So curious to see how that plays out now in Dragonflight. We have options to the Tranquil Air Totem, which is going to remove pushback on casts and reduce interrupts by 50%, but it is a 1-minute cooldown. So perhaps if there's some sort of Enhancement Shaman casters in PvP, you may want to take this to synergize with your ranged DPS that are getting attacked. You could put a Tranquil Air Totem down, maybe hide it somewhere, and then they can free cast, and then maybe run some PvP talents like Bloodlust to pump them up and juice them up. So if there is some sort of compositions like this, maybe Demonology Enhancement or something in PvP, this could be super fun. In PvE, again, you're supposed to be avoiding the interrupts, so reducing them, not sure if that's going to come in too well for you. Stone Skin Totem, 30-second cooldown. Summon a totem that's going to reduce all physical damage taken by party members by 10%. So if you know you're fighting like Outlaw Rogues, Fury Warriors, where it's all physical damage, you're going to get a little bit of extra value on this to try and help your team survive. But I find it tough to fit this in. Could be a decent mechanic for raid bosses, especially if you're giving it to your tank to give them a little bit of an extra 10% damage reduction. So if you want to focus more on assisting your tank take less damage, or assist on getting your healers more mana. And then Creation Core, which is Call of the Elements, will affect 2 totems, so you might get a Tremor reset and a Healing Stream reset, or you can reduce the cooldown of it by 60 seconds to try and get access to more important totems more frequently. So the overall Shaman tree, you're getting access to spells that you previously had not been able to, returning spells, customizations focused towards mana regeneration, damage mitigation, stuns, crowd controls, purges. You're really able to customize the way that you want to play your Shaman in any given situation by a large degree. I'm very happy with the talents overall for the Shaman. Now into the Enhancement Shaman specific talents, we have Storm Strike, which of course we're going to take, and it kind of breaks off into a right and a left side. The right side focusing more on Lava Lash and fire damage, the left side focusing on wind, and the center focusing more on like Spirit Wolves and kind of the pet builds. Do note that Chain Harvest is not carrying forward, so I think that the Lava Lash talents outside of a PvE environment are going to be reduced in value significantly. We're probably going back to a Wind Fury build in PvP. And of course, you're going to get Wind Fury weapon. I did choose to pick up Lava Lash because just having an extra Maelstrom generator is going to be good. And when Storm Strike isn't available, you're going to want another button to press. Then we have Forceful Winds. Wind Fury causes each successful Wind Fury attack within 15 seconds to increase the damage of Wind Fury, stacking up to 5 times. So of course, you're going to Wind build. You're going to want to focus everything on the left. Improved Maelstrom weapon. This is now going to increase the damage or healing of spells affected by it by 20%. Really powerful. Towards the right side, Lava Lash with 2 ranks. Lava Lash's cooldown is going to be reduced, and Lava Lash is used against targets afflicted by Flame Shock. It's going to spread your Flame Shock around to multiple targets. Again, in PvE, I'm imagining this is going to be very powerful for AoE. Unruly Winds. Wind Fury weapon has a 40% chance to trigger a 3rd attack. Just more attacks onto a target during our burst, which is going to be great. Raging Maelstrom. Maelstrom weapon can now stack 5 additional times, so getting up to the 10 stacks that you have baseline is kind of just a reactivating talent to what you had previously. Feral Lunge, of course, for mobility. If you're a PvE and you don't really feel like you need this, you can completely avoid it to pick up more damage. And then on towards the left, Primal Lava Actuator, so they're bringing forward the Lava Lash legendary. Each time Flame Shock does periodic damage, it will increase the damage of your next Lava Lash by 12% and reduce its cooldown. Or the Primal Primer, melee attacks with Flame Tongue active increase the damage the target takes from your next Lava Lash by 7, stacking up to 10 times. tough to aim towards which one of these is better. They seem very similar to each other. And then Doom Winds is returning detached from Wind Fury totem. So the Legion Doom Winds increase the chance to activate your Wind Fury weapon by 79% and increase damage dealt by Wind Fury weapon by 25% for 8 seconds. And then Sundering, which is going to be great utility for interrupting mobs, although not maybe potentially 100% necessary in PvE if you wanted to get more damage. So you're going to have to choose whether you want to focus on utility or just raw output. Overflowing Maelstrom, your damage or healing spells will now consume up to 10 Maelstrom stacks. So you could get some really fat lightning bolts, especially with the talents like we covered over here with 20% more lightning bolt damage. This could be crazy for burst. Focused Maelstrom or an Ellie Blast with 10 stacks could be insane damage. Focused Maelstrom weapon now increases the damage or healing of spells it affects by 5%, so synergizing these together to get 25%. And then of course Wind Fury totem, which is just the classic extra attacks. And then we can get into Fire Nova. This was a really powerful spell in PvE, things like rated BGs. I don't know if it will continue to be the case, but that's likely where it's going to fit. Erupt with a burst of fiery damage from all targets affected by your flame shock, dealing 688 fire damage up to 6 targets within 8 yards of your flame shock targets. Or you can go for Hailstorm. Each stack of Maelstrom weapon consumed increases the damage of your next Frost Shock, but note that you'll want a talent for Frost Shock and the baseline talent if you take this, and it'll cause it to hit an additional target up to 5, so getting your AoE Frost Shocks. Then we've got Elemental Weapons, increases all fire, frost, and nature damage dealt by 5%, so you can get 2 points, so probably 10%. Again, focusing on your Flame Shock, your AoE damage. Then we can get into Stormbringer. Your special attacks have a 6.5% chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Storm Strike and cause your next Storm Strike to deal 25% additional damage as nature damage. So getting you these kind of crit chance of your nature spells over here, giving you more damage over here, buffing up your lightning bolts, good synergies. And then we have the Refreshing Waters, which is the healing surge, is 30% more effective on ourselves. You can see that scaling well with the healing talents focused inside on the left side, scaling well with honor talents as well. Or we can go Ancestral Wolf Affinity, which is like the aggressive Ghost Wolf Purge, where you can use some spells while in Ghost Wolf, Cleanse Spirit, Wind Shear, Purge, and Totems while moving around the map. I do think the value of healing surge is so high that I can't see why you wouldn't want to take that. Crash Lightning, of course, to try and get that spell back into your kit for an extra rotational button that's going to buff your Storm Strike. Storm Flurry. Storm Strike has a 25% chance to strike the target an additional time for 40% of its normal damage. This effect can chain off of itself, and I think we already see the power of the Storm Strike build for single target, especially burst in PvP. Ice Strike, which is going to be 13-second cooldown. Strike your target with an icy blade, dealing 1800 frost damage, snaring them by 50%. Ice Strike increases damage of your next Frost Shock, so this is great synergies with Hailstorm for getting you massive AoE Frost Shock cleave, which could actually be really powerful in Mythic Plus. Elemental Blast, harness the power of the raw elements, dealing basically 2000 elemental damage and increasing your critical strike, haste by 3% or your mastery by 6%. And again, dumping like a 10 stack with that. Perhaps we can get to Miss Pandaria, like Ellie Blast burst damage possibly. Improved Stormbringer. Stormbringer now causes your next Storm Strike to deal 25% additional damage as nature, so just even more Storm Strike damage. Gathering Storms. Each target hit by Crash Lightning increases the damage of your next Storm Strike by 5%. Chain Lightning rank 2, which is each target hit by Chain Lightning reduces the cooldown of your Crash Lightning, so potentially just getting more synergizing between Crash Lightning and Chain Lightning for AoE to try and give the Storm Strike build a little bit of AoE support. And then Hot Hand, melee auto attacks, the Flame Tongue weapon activate, have a 5% chance to reduce the cooldown of your Lava Lash by 75%, increase its damage. Really cool with the lava actuators again if you wanted to focus on Lava Lash. Swirling Maelstrom. Ice Strike and Fire Nova now also grant you 2 stacks of Maelstrom weapon. And then the ability that they brought forward from Shadowlands, Primordial Wave, blast your target for elemental damage, which will apply Flame Shock and will cause your Lightning Bolt to also be affected by your Flame Shock for 150% normal damage. So if you got a really big Lightning Bolt stacked with a 10 stack Overflowing Maelstrom with the 20% stacked from our normal talents, you might be able to get a really juicy Lightning Bolt from this. Primordial Wave generates 5 stack, or sorry, then we'll move over to the Feral Spirits, and you'll see how the middle bottom focuses around your Feral Spirits, which was powerful in Shadowlands as well, or on towards the right side with Ascendance, giving you that ranged attack opportunity. Primal Maelstrom. Primordial Wave will now generate 5 stacks of Maelstrom weapons, so you can just immediately get into a massive lightning bolt with the Primordial Wave, have it AoE for some really good cleave. This is going to give you a lot better kind of like burst AoE and single target for for enhancement, which could be really powerful for leveling when trash mobs don't survive very long. Elemental Assault, Storm Strike damage is increased by 15%, and Storm Strike now generates 1 stack of Maelstrom weapon. So again, even more Storm Strike damage. Witch Doctor's Wolf Bones is carrying forward. Increase the chance to gain a stack of Maelstrom weapon by 4%. Whenever you gain a stack, the cooldown of your Feral Spirits is going to be reduced by 2 seconds. Legacy of the Frost Witch, consuming 5 stacks of Maelstrom weapon will reset the cooldown of Storm Strike and cause your next Storm Strike to deal 15% increased damage. So many things towards Storm Strike that have me thinking it's going to be crazy. Static Accumulation, while Ascendance is active, generate 1 Maelstrom weapon stack every second. And then finally, on the last row, Splintered Elements. Each additional lightning bolt generated by Primordial Wave is going to increase your haste by 6%. And then on the final row, Alpha Wolf. While Feral Spirits are active, Crash Lightning causes your wolves to attack all nearby enemies, giving you more sustained cleave, burst cleave. Again, really going to be really good for leveling. PvP probably not so great. At high level PvE, it's just math. Are the wolves doing more AoE than the Hailstorm build, or is the Fire Nova build? So we'll have to wait and see for that. Elemental Spirits reduces the cooldown of Feral Spirits by 30 seconds, causes your Feral Spirits to be imbued with Fire, Frost, or Lightning, and enhance your abilities. So I'm thinking going towards that. We're only level 60 on the Alpha right now, but picking up Legacy of the Frost Switch for Storm Strike damage, focusing on Spirit Wolves, or you can go the Primordial Wave for more of a bursty build. And then finally, Thorum's Invocation. While Ascendance is active, Wind Strike automatically consumes up to 5 Maelstrom weapon stacks to discharge a lightning bolt at your target. So maybe an Ellie Blast Ascendance build where you're just kind of just destroying people from range, back in that Mists of Pandaria era. But overall, there's a lot to be excited about when it comes to the Shaman class. Enhancement Shaman looks like it's going to be really powerful, have a lot of cool and unique builds and options. I love the way that the tree was laid out. It makes a lot of sense. It's very congruent, focusing on fire, ice, and AoE, focusing on wind and lightning and single target with some kind of burst, pet, or large cooldown ways to customize where you want to have your spikes of damage, or if you want more sustain. So really impressed with it overall. It's looking like a fabulous class moving forward into Dragonflight. I would definitely recommend it. So thank you very much for watching this video and this overview of the Enhancement Shaman. If you enjoyed it, please hit it with the thumbs up, and if you like this type of content, then please hit the subscribe button, because I am doing my best to bring to you all of these specializations moving forward into Dragonflight, so we can get those brain juices going and start figuring out some possibilities for builds and mains moving into this, what is looking like a fantastic expansion. So other than that, thank you very much for watching the video, and I will catch you in the next one.